We made this.
Hello and welcome to a special bonus episode of Pick a Disc. I'm your host Matt Latham, and this is the podcast where I usually speak to someone about a disc that they've picked, but we're not going to do that today. This is just a special bonus episode, as you could probably tell by the fact that it's actually been only a week since the previous one instead of 2 weeks. It's just because that in my chat with Babs about Get Rid by Raps in Disguise, there's a few things that came up that I really quite liked to have kept in, but because of time and issues and some of the tangents that went on, I thought I might as well just take them out and put them in a bonus episode. So you got something about music we didn't like played in clubs. We go on for a bit about festival lineups, and we talk about my not watching the Mighty Boosh, and there's a good chunk about remixes. Now, on the album that we spoke about, the album ended 2 remixes, and we ended up talking for about a good 10 odd minutes, and as the episode was running quite long, I decided to cut that out just to keep the main episode, just to lighten the main episode. But I really liked that remix conversation, so I thought I'd keep it in. So it's about, the whole chunk is about 11 minutes long, so that's going to be in here as well. There's about 4 different things that I ended up taking out and putting back in, but yeah, I hope you enjoy just these extra bits, and perhaps in the future, if people like this kind of stuff, I might start doing a couple more of these bonus episodes of just content that I had to take out that I really thought was quite might be nice to listen to anyway. So, you know the socials by now. If you're listening to this, you probably already listened to episode 70, so follow us and all those things. If you listen to this without listening to episode 70 first, listen to that first and then listen to this. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this like extra bonus slice of Piggy Disc. So yeah, so let me just hit the sound effect button and see what comes out. Really trancy dance music club that I once went to with a few friends, and yeah, it wasn't my kind of thing. So like, yeah, you can kind of get, because you can probably kind of get that kind of idea that people that aren't going into that. But I think in the context of the song, it's more of a case that there are, as you said, it's probably people who probably believe they are above the music taste, or perhaps people who are gone to like a cheesy pop night and just who just like think the music's shit, when what you should really be doing is just dancing to like Kylie Minogue or something.
Yeah, I think I've spoken on my podcast before about how, from the ages of 13 to 18, I grew up in Luxembourg, and like, what indie disco, what is that? I did not discover that until I went to uni back in the UK. And most of the clubs, it was kind of, pop or hip hop, which I wasn't as into at the time, or shit dance music basically. And it was just, if you wanted to dance, you just kind of had to get into it. And actually some of those songs now I'm quite nostalgic about. Like I heard Get Busy by Sean Paul in a cafe recently, and I was like, oh my God, this really takes me back. And I'm like, what I would give, because we don't have Freedom Day here in Belgium. We're not going to have Freedom Day at the very least until September. So I have been to an outdoor kind of rave thing, but clubs don't exist yet. So I'm thinking when they do, cannot wait to go and dance. A bit of Sean Paul, a bit of Usher, a bit of Mary J. Blige. That would be great. Yeah,
I think there was from one of the towns that I was from like 2006 2007. It's just before I went back to my final year of uni, actually. Because I was like 21 when I first started properly going out drinking. You look at the term late bloomer in the dictionary. There's a picture of me right next to it. Because I didn't really start going out drinking and clubbing until I was 21. And like when you say like there's certain songs that like you hated at the time, but then you look back and you think, you kind of like, it'd be nice to kind of revisit that sound. Like it was like there was a period of time where you'd be walking down like through the town of Warsaw High Street, for example, and you'll see all these bands, and the song that was playing everywhere, because I think it was massive, was Body Rocks. With Luciana.
Oh, I love that song so much.
But the things are, I think it's just kind of weird because it's not the kind of music, but I like the song. But pretty much anything that Luciana, I can never pronounce her surname, Paparosa,
I don't know her surname at all. That's
Well, I think her stage name is just Lucia now. I think anything that she's involved with is great. She had a great song with Supermall called "Bigger Than Big," which I think is better than Body Rocks. And she was also
I don't know that song. I'll have to check it out.
"Bigger Than Big." Oh, it was great. And she also had a few songs with a band called Portobello, and they only had about three songs that kind of out, and a couple that I managed to rip off MySpace that I have, and those MP3s are never getting deleted. They've got a song called Covering Punk, which is brilliant. There's another song called Vivid Difference, and a few other kind of B-sides to put on there. And if it wasn't for the fact that they only had about 4 songs, could have been a really good candidate for being an underrated band on your podcast actually. But yeah, she had like this song called Body Rocks, and that was like, and I hated it at the time. But then kind of seeing what she did afterwards, it's got like a nostalgic value to it. And also it was that, and then there's also that song, and for some strange reason, being played in 2006 in about at least 3 or 4 different clubs in Warsaw was "Dreamer" by Living Joy. That was played quite a lot as well.
Yeah, it's. I think sometimes. I think the reason why, I was like, I don't like Sean Paul or Usher or whoever it is because I was really into rock, and when I got into it, which was kind of, I'd say 2001 to 2005, it just wasn't as mainstream as it was because grunge had gone, and we hadn't had the garage rock revival. Well, I guess there was Strokes and White Stripes and Hives and all that, but that was like, again, a very specific group of bands, and people knew a few songs, but yeah, it's not like they were played in the club. So I think it's that thing of, if clubs had a bit more variety, or you had bigger rooms so you could go to those things, I wouldn't have minded listening to Usher and Muse in the same evening. But yeah, when all you have is one genre and it's not your favorite kind of genre, I think at the time, you just really resent it.
Yeah, and I think the same as well. I think this is kind of going back to DJs Got A Good.
And how do you feel about not one but 2 remixes at the end of the album?
See, I don't listen to them. To me, it's like a 9-track album. I'm not much a fan of the actual of those like remixes. So I just never listen to them. And like, I know some people saying, but how can you like an album if you don't listen to the complete? I don't think they're not original songs. They feel like, how you get like the bonus discs. Or you get like special editions, and you'll have like a B-side thrown in, or you'll have like remix. You will have like either remix alternative takes or something, which is on the tracks. I can't think of examples off the top of my head, which is really annoying when you want to make a point. But it does feel like it's a special edition of the album with like 2 bonus tracks added on, and they're not really original tracks either. So, and I don't count them as part of the album.
Like I said, I find it strange that, it's a 9-track album with a cover, or an 11-track album with a cover and 2 remixes. I actually do quite like the remixes, especially the DJ's Got A Gun one, because I've actually would love to dance to this in a club or indie disco, because I think what the remix does is, I think, pick the best parts and really exaggerate them, and the bass is louder, and they Chris Corner, because it's the remixes are called the IMX Shut Up You Dance remix, and the other one is the IMX Sexual Helium remix. Not difficult to stand out. But yeah, the DJ's Got A Gun, there's a new guitar and new beats at the end to kind of make it precisely a dancier remix. And for Hot Gossip, so actually DJ's Got A Gun, I listen to it always and remember it. Hot Gossip, I usually don't get to that remix because I don't like the song as much, but I listened to it again today for the first time in ages, and I thought, actually, again, I might prefer this to the original, because it of the new beats and the guitar that's put in, and it really made me think, like, actually, I love their voices so much, but because there's so many different genres and instrumentation going on, I think what the remixes both do is really showcase their voices more as individuals, because sometimes it is only one of them singing and not another, and that doesn't happen that much on this album. Normally it is the 2 of them harmonizing most of the time, and I think their voices sound a bit cleaner and clearer on the remixes. So when I came in, I was like, yeah, why is this happening? But I was like, actually, like it isn't what you would have on a traditional album, but it does do something. It does add something.
Yeah, I'm not much a fan of remixes in general, if I'm completely honest. I kind of because I can remember when like you'll get it's when CD singles, like you'd have like the single, and then just to use the space on the CD, you'll have like about 20 minutes of remixes, and I never really clocked on why they did that. If I'm honest, I don't know, it's just to use the space they've had, but yeah, I'm not.
See, I love a remix. I've been campaigning to do like a favorite remixes episode with Fran, because I just think sometimes it's a bit like a cover. Sometimes a remix can make you see a song in a completely different way, and when people can do that, I think it's a very good skill. But I do get it that if you really like a song, why would you go and listen to 7 other versions of that song when maybe only 1 or 2 of them are good? You have to pick and choose.
I think as well. Sorry, I think a lot of the remixes tend to be kind of dance clubby as well, particularly in the 90s particularly in like the late 90s when I had bought like CD singles, like one of the first when I first had my first CD player, I was about 11 or 12, and I remember the 2 CDs I had Hits 96 and the Greatest Hits in 1995. And I had 2 singles. The first single was a song by Michael Jackson. The second one was So Good by Boyzone.
I don't know that Boyzone song.
Neither did I until I had the single. So it must. The only thing I could think of is whether because I was very much like I liked Michael Jackson's music at that time, and this was in the 90s. So before stuff came out, so when it was cool to like him, so I was quite fan. So my parents must have gotten a song, but the only thing I could think of is whether it was the case when they got the CD singles, it was like a two for whatever thing, and they must have tried to figure out just giving the Boyzone song, and so I listened to that quite a lot and ended up really liking it. But
I have to go and listen to it. I really no memory of that.
Yeah, gonna be so good. But there was like a massive there was a 7.5 minute dance remix.
That doesn't sound like your kind of thing at all.
No, but I remember listening to it. I remember listening to it quite a lot. And actually, I remember, and I think I know why, because at the time I was scared to push the buttons on the CD player, which had the 2 triangles and the line next to it, which I eventually realised was the skip button. And I can remember the first time I actually used the skip button. It was the Hits 96 CD. Bit later on Christmas, the afternoon of Christmas, and I was listening to the CD again, and I think it was, and I think it was the second song on that CD was Everything But the Girl's Missing, and I remember going, I want to listen to something else. Pushed the button, and it jumped, and I thought I'd broken the CD player, and then the next song started playing, and I was like, oh, okay. I thought I broke
the past.
Yeah.
Whereas now you just press play on your Spotify.
Yeah. So yeah, here's me being scared of the skip button, thinking I've broken something. But yeah, no, yeah. So I remember the kind of dance remixes, but I'm not much fun. I can't think off the top of my head any kind of remix.
Well, I've pulled up my Righteous Remixes playlist. So I've got a covers playlist of my favorite covers and my remixes page of my favorite remixes. There's 39 songs on there. A lot of them are Soul Wax, and a lot of them are remixes of Depeche Mode songs. I think because of the Facebook page 20 of the Best. Do you know this page, Matt? Like, it's a Facebook group where basically the moderator picks bands, and people have to vote on their favorite songs from a band, and then the top 20 goes into a playlist as these are 20 of the best. So normally it's bands, but every now and again he'll have a theme. So for example, he did an Olympics one recently, like songs with you could relate to the Olympics, and he did a remixes one, and I was like, oh, bloody love a remix. I'm actually going to kind of sit down and see what people are putting here. And yeah, discovered so many. Yeah, I've got a lot of Depeche Mode ones, Late of the Pier, and Klaxon's ones as well that I hadn't seen before, and a Goldfrapp remix of a Depeche Mode song. Yeah, some really good stuff. But But yeah, I'm actually surprised that it's only 39. I would have thought it would have been more. And honestly, I'm looking now, and about 15 of them are Depeche Mode. So clearly, maybe I'm not as much of a remix fan as I thought.
Now, I've thought of one. I've thought of one there. There was there's an artist called Girly, and she got a song called Mr. 10 p.m. Mr. 10 p.m. Bedtime, and there's a Toots remix, and that. But I think basically what that is, it's basically the Toots performing, just basically performing instrumental and providing. I think they actually sing. I think they actually sing some of the verses in the song as well.
Nice.
And the mix, and I think they mix in Girly's vocals in with it. So yeah, here's me. That's one remix that I know I like.
Excellent. I wanted to look at my list to see if there was one, kind of vaguely knowing your music taste that you. Well, there's Limp Bizkit, so I'm not going to recommend that to you. I know that for
Depends which
sure.
song.
Well, so it's basically the Limp Bizkit have an album called New Old Songs, and it's kind of sort of rap remixes of their songs. So the two that I've got from there's a Nookie one which was remixed by the Neptunes, and there's Take a Look Around, which has E48 Ball and Timberland. So I don't know, might be worth checking out. But outside of the classics, like, the Armin Van Halen remix of Professional Widow, the I Follow Rivers Magician remix, I would say Andrew Weatherall remixed an Oriel's song, Sugar Tastes Like Salt. And I have to say, I'm not a huge Oriel's fan, but I really like his remix of it. I think you might be into that too.
But now, I never got into the Reanimation album by Linkin Park. But
right, yeah.
One that I did do, and I don't know if they count as remixes. I'm actually really good. I really like a decent mashup, but I don't know if they class as remixes. I think that's a different kind.
Interesting.
Like stuff like the Collision Course by Linkin Park and stuff, but then you get all the fan made ones because I found on WinMX years and years ago there's a great mashup which has the lyrics for the Eminem song with Dr. Dre and 50 Cent off the Encore album called Encore, but they took the vocals from that and placed it over the Numb Encore by Linkin
nice.
Park. Yeah, so you got the choruses from the Numb and the Encore remix, but all the verses from the Eminem song Encore, and I really prefer that. I prefer that song with the Numb Encore instrumental rather than the original Dr. Dre beat. But I don't know if that's classed as a remix.
Well, do you know what? I think, again, looking at my list, sometimes when is it a remix and when is it a cover as well? Because one of my all-time favorite remixes, and it's classed as a remix, is the Vanshee remix of Gravity's Rainbow by Klaxons. Do you know Gravity's Rainbow by Klaxons?
I don't sometimes.
So it's a song that the chorus is come with me, we'll travel to infinity. So it's a song that's piano and bass led, but the Vanshee remix is instrumental, like almost fully instrumental and totally electronic, to the point where I didn't realize that it was the same song. Remix, it absolutely blew my mind. But I'm like, they're calling this a remix, but this feels like a cover. So similarly with a mashup, I mean, if you're taking and isolating different elements, then I would argue it is a remix because you're remixing certain parts. But if you're using other songs that exist, is it that? And then we get into sampling as well. I mean, it's a minefield. But but to take it back to the album, I think in theory I would have been like, putting remixes almost feels a bit lazy even. And I went to look at the singles from this album. Did they have B-sides? And some of the B-sides were the Kinks cover and the remixes, and one which was Bed Scenes from their debut album Disguises on a single that came later. So I don't know. It just must be that they just didn't have more songs at the time. While I would have initially, if someone told me that was the concept, I would have been not into it. Actually, I think it works for this album.
Yeah, actually, that reminds me of a point I was aiming to bring up earlier, where you've got when we were talking about the album in general, in that where like you got those negative opinions saying, "Oh, it just sounds like this, and this." But I think that I think it's apparent with what people have said on this podcast in previous episodes when I spoke to people, in that if you discover a certain sound or discover a certain genre, and it's more of a modern artist, and it's got those influences, you're gonna end up being more sentimental towards the entry point in that the entry point of that thing. So when you start listening the original stuff, where people go, "Oh no, you need to listen to you like Oasis, you need to listen to the Beatles," and then people listen to the Beatles and go, "No, I prefer Oasis," and that really winds up boomers. That really winds up people. Yeah, that really winds up the older generation. Yeah, that really winds up them and stuff. But like you can't. I mean, like they can go back and look at that. Oh yeah, it was nice to listen to that, but I much prefer this new stuff. It's like if you try and the part of me that kind of likes seeing the lineage of stuff. So like I love to see how people's tastes or music kind of changing, like the music genealogy of kind of music genre, even television as well. Particularly how television history and how it works is like weirdly I've got an obsession with how everything kind of relates to each other. So if you, and I'm losing my point now. So if you've got someone who kind of likes like the 1975, for example, and you go, well, yeah, but it just sounds like Joy Division, and yeah, and then like people are like, okay, then let's see it, and like they'll listen to Joy Division, and like they're not gonna the Gen Zs who are listening to 1975 are not gonna go and like Joy Division because there's an element of the 1975 that kind of either refines or takes elements from other parts, and only takes certain elements of Joy Division to that. So when people say, when you got older people telling all the teenagers, say, no, you need to listen to Joy Division, this is shit and stuff, and they go to listen to Joy Division, they're not going to like Joy Division because it's not going to be, it's not going to be what, well, some might, but the casual fan's not going to like something because it just, because it's the original version of it or the next stage back. That makes sense. Yeah.
And I think, if a band sounds like someone else and it makes people at least go listen to that other band, surely that's a good thing. If you're a boomer who's like, oh, music hasn't been as good since the 70s, well, actually if we were more positive about it and said, oh, it's really fantastic that 1975 sounds like Joy Division, well, your child, your relative might enjoy it more.
Yeah, or people that moan that high profile festivals, music's crap now. Music's crap now because I haven't heard of all these bands and stuff. But listen to them.
Yeah, so, and also what that means, what that very specifically means is the genre of music that was popular when I was younger is not the genre that's popular right now. It's like when people complain about the state of rock. Rock isn't as mainstream as hip hop is right now, but there is still amazing rock out there if you want to look for it. You're just annoyed because it just happened to be the mainstream genre when you were young and it's not anymore. Get over yourself.
Yeah. You see, I've looked. I'm not going, and I've never been to Reading or Leeds or Glastonbury, but you can look at the lineup and go, yeah, you know what? You can look at the under, to use a wrestling terminology, look at the undercards and say you can get a good couple of good weekends worth of music and not even touch the main stage. And it's the same. I've never been to Glastonbury. Part of me wants to go to Glastonbury, but part of me doesn't. It's very weird because I've never been, but I know for a fact that I can probably go to Glastonbury and probably spend most of the day walking from what I've been told about it. But you can probably go and curate your own lineup without even touching the pyramid stage or any of the bigger stages, because you can if you do the work and discover this music, you can kind of find that stuff, and which I think which is that kind of like long deviation back to back there. You can't really mock something, you can't really criticize something for being retro. So
and I think it's very unfair with Robots in Disguise, and it does seem to be. I do think that part of the reason why they're not as big is sexism. And again, we talked about this similarly on our grunge episode with L7, where it's like there are people doing the same, mostly worse than you are. Like I think there are people making as good music with not as good lyrics and not looking as kind of stylish and out there. So why weren't they taken seriously? I don't know. And I'm thinking, you've seen, or it's sometimes I'm not on TikTok, but I see people who are and vaguely follow the trends, and it's quite funny sometimes how a seemingly random old song will become like a soundtrack to me. I'm thinking of specifically Rasheen Murphy's Ramalama Bang Bang. That was this I don't know if you saw this, but it was this weird meme of like people would run people would be running in their house, and then when it would get to the Rama Lama Dang Bang, they would be in front of a mirror. So you just see someone running with a phone, and then suddenly for that section you'd see them in front of a mirror. And I was like, this is so strange. And I think it's now, I'm checking it, but I think it is now her most played song, when it was kind of like an album track. Her second most played song after Overpowered. And it is kind of an album track, I think, from a less beloved album. I think so many of these songs from Get Rid could have a second life on social media now. But there we go. So yeah,
checks on Audacity, and we're about an hour and 40 minutes, which technically is probably the longest so far.
Cut.
It's kind of quite hard, because it'll be quite difficult. I feel there's a lot of interesting chat, which a lot of divergent topics, but I do quite like it. I don't know. I might see what I feel.
Yeah, to be honest, I had so much more about Mighty Boosh and Sneaker Pimps and Chris Corner, for example, but I was like, oh my god, no, this is going to be too much. I have never
seen anything of the Mighty Boosh at all. So
what?
Yeah,
what?
I have not seen anything. Yeah, which I think it's a perfect time to drop that bombshell just at the end of the episode. But
I mean, I would say they. Well, then I'm glad I didn't go into it then, because don't look up what roles Robots in Disguise play, but they are in several episodes, and I think I think you would like it. I mean, obviously it's older now, but it's very culty, very music oriented, and very funny. So I do recommend it.
It's one of those things that I would try and watch, but so the Mighty Boosh, definitely not something I've really got into and stuff. And I think there's a whole line of no fielding that you can go down, particularly that, but and slightly. But I'm not going to get down that well, mainly because when you try and search for Deep Plume, search for Deep Plume on Google, there's just a load of stuff about no fielding. But that's a whole different thing. If you want any, so. You've been listening to Pick a Disc, and I've been your host, Matthew Latham. Our theme music is Pump by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. Pick a Disc is hosted by the We Made This podcast network, and you can find them on www.spreaker.com/user/We Made This. You can find the Pick a Disc show site on www.spreaker.com/show/pickadisc. You can find us on all the usual social media type places like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter under Pick a Disc. You can also email us on pickadisc@gmail.com. Until next time, happy listening to all those discs that you are picking. Goodbye.